Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Thursday, the 28th of November. I am Flatcapcallum and I'm hoping you are all very, very well. All right, we're uploading earlier. The aim is to be quicker than last night's unintentional ramble. I was gonna one thing I was gonna talk about after the bet as well. So we'll do the review of Wednesday. We'll do Thursday's bets. 3 horses each way. Trixie 850 stake, and then one topic I was just going to cover afterwards might turn into a ramble. You never know. It's me. So Wednesday. Remember the chatter last night was all about zebras. Turns out one of them was a unicorn. So you okay, hun? Went in 80-1, almost got done on the line. So I would like to say we've been due some level of luck at places, and yes, I think little bit of luck there in the sense of it wasn't far off getting done on the line. So if you got 80s at the SP, you'd have made small profit. If you got 66s like the channel did, we were down 85 pence. The Dundalk trio, drift, but basically none of them did anything in terms of level of performance. So couldn't back up the nice price winner, but again another good one on the board. And I double check that. So I think since I've been back and I've been keeping really clear logs of stuff, I think I've had 14 horses at 66-1 or more that hit the star rating, and we've had 2 place at 66 and 1 at 100. If you back them all each way, that would be enough to give you a very healthy profit margin off those. So am I saying back everything blindly above 66-1? No, I'm not. But what I am saying, statistically speaking, if you did that to the 14 horses that have been advised on the star system since I've been back, that would have been a way you could have navigated and made a bit of a profit along the way. Have I got another horse that fits that criteria on Thursday? Yes, I actually have. Interestingly, on Wednesday, there was 2 other horses that framed at 100-1, as in 2 others. 80s was actually only the 3rd best price of a frame. There was 200-1 shots. One I wouldn't have gone near. Another one I had a really good look at, and it's a really good, interesting example for where I've got to call a line on the channel. So there was one that placed, I forget its name. It was trained by, I think it was Andrew Cook, smaller yard, 100-1 in Bumper it was. And basically I had a look at that race and I looked at that horse, and when I looked at it last night, it was 33s. And there was 2 other horses that came out subsequently, which changed the complexion of the race. So had it been the lineup of that race, like if I was looking just before the off, and to be fair, I didn't back the horse, I wasn't looking in the day at the stuff. But had I looked at that race 5 minutes before the off and saw it as 100-1, I would have backed that. And had it been 100-1 in the race format, it would have been a channel pick. So I'm limited with what I can do on the channel of the time of day and the betting markers in there. I could go, well, do you know what? I think that horse might drift. There's probably a very mild consideration in my head about that. I just think it's a very dangerous game. So as much as I've demonstrated quite a lot, I think I can tell you which way the market the horse is going to go. And not everything I'm backing is shortening, and there'll be things that lengthen too. I wouldn't want to make a habit of betting a horse on the assumption, as in put it up on the channel the night before, on the assumption so it would drift. Now, if I'm time poor myself personally, I might back a horse that I think that's probably going to drift, but I wouldn't want to do that on the channel because it adds an extra level of complexity. Because if I start going down, this horse take the price, this horse SP, I think it makes it more complicated. So I'm sticking to what I'm doing, but it has been a mild consideration. All right, Thursday. So it was 85p loss, I should say. That was yesterday's what I got. Thursday. So 110 Lingfield. This is another zebra. Gisela Demott, 80-1. It's one of those ones. It's not too dissimilar to You OK, Hun, from the day before. There is, I think it's 12, maybe 12 runners in that one, 11 or 12 runners, I think, which is a couple more than you really want. But on hurdles form, second best. If I convert to what I think looks like from point and bumper forms, there's one coming from points that basically looks decent enough that it should perform, and one coming from bumpers. It comes out fourth best, which is what the horse did the day before, and it was in a bit of a photo finish for third place. Whether we can get lightning strike again, I don't know. I do think the headgear is an interesting thing to put headgear on a horse in that kind of a race. Shows to me that it's not all about waiting for a handicap mark, because if you're doing that in that kind of race, you're experimenting on things, and some trainers wait and use that experimentation until they get into handicaps, because if they think it's going to give some level of improvement, then they don't want to kind of waste that opportunity in a novice or a maiden race. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, basically second best bit of hurdles form, as I would read the form. I think that's the fourth best horse in the race despite the price. I said that yesterday and we got one over the line. The point is, long term, these sort of bets, I'd absolutely confident in telling you they come out long term, but the market doesn't think that's got a chance. That's not what I think, but clearly again, a very unlikely winner. 2 stars. Then we've got 310 Taunton. I scraped this in because it is a class 5, and I really haven't been doing class 5s on the jump so much from a handicap point of view. But yeah, I really liked it in terms of it's a bit of a Taunton specialist and all sorts of different distances. And I think people looking at bare form will look at it and go, well, actually, it's won its races over much further. I think it's 2-2 today, and it's won over 273 mile sort of races. But actually, it's really, really consistent at Taunton and generally pretty consistent overall. Last time out in the summer, it ran a bad race. But generally speaking, if you look at the horse's history, it runs pretty good, fresh. So that wouldn't be a worry. It almost always runs decent at Taunton over a complete variety of distances and ground. So yeah, 4 places in that race. I think it's worth taking a chance. 16s is a good enough price, I think, to chance that. So 310 Taunton Imperial Joe, 1 star, and then finishing off at Thurles, 335 Veru. Really can't see why that's the price it is, and I'd be quite surprised if it stays like that. Small time trainer, and little known jockey. That they would be the things that some people will look and it will put them off. But when you start looking and go, well, it's won over course and distance off the same handicap mark, that's a big tick. The ground should be fine for it. And it's got inconsistent profile, but sometimes you find that with horses that have run over lots of different Irish tracks like this one. And my read of it is it didn't like Navan, and there's other tracks it hasn't liked that. It's ran there twice. But there's other tracks it has, and I think ground-wise looks good. It's got good ground, which I think is what it wants. Ran well last time at Thurles. Has also run well at other tracks off similar handicap marks, off similar going, off similar distance. So, yeah, small-time trainer and non-prolific jockey aside, it looks like a decent bet at 33s to me. So, 50p each way Trixie. So that's each way doubles and trebles. That's £4, that part of the bet. And then 75p each way singles on all 3 makes it £8.50. The only tricky thing with this one is that Sky are 6 there when everyone's 5, but Sky and Paddy aren't pricing up the Lingfield races because it's all this ongoing dispute around what the bookmakers are having with some of the companies that own the horse racing tracks, and so as part of that they have this protest where every now and again, if they've got a meeting for them, they don't put up the prices, and you can only get SP nearer the time. So what it means is you can't put this Trixie on with Sky or Paddy. You can do the other 2. You can do the other 2. You can do those 2, and you can do the singles with Sky or Paddy. So what I was going to flag as well from a price point of view, that's pretty much 33s across the board. Half the book is 18, but I think because some of the more major ones are only 16. I felt like it was fair to do only 16s, and there's lots of 100 to 1 available there. But again, because I'm conscious, lots of people will use a Sky or Paddy account, and you can't use it for this bet. You might need to shop around, and therefore I think the fairest thing to do is say 80 to 1, even though you've probably got half a dozen of the main bookmakers offering you hundreds on that. So that's how I've made the decision. 850 is the bet. And then the only thing I was going to mention, just after last night's, wasn't a shambles, I wouldn't say, but yeah, the amount of inaccurate things I said last night. It's the lesson of yeah, when you're really tired of making a video, because at times I think I do myself a little bit of a disservice. And I've said this stuff before. I haven't said it for a while, so I think it's useful to reiterate because I like to be quite open about it. So my brain is dyslexically wired, right? So lots of people know what dyslexia is, or they think they know what it is, and they think that means you can't read and write very well. That isn't necessarily the case. It's a form of neurodiversity, and it means your brain's wired differently. So my brain is less good at writing. Certainly, writing is a big challenge for me. So, you know, this is like my best stuff. But to be fair, I've practiced so hard and it takes me so long, but I think it's legible enough. But yeah, I absolutely detest writing, and my spelling is actually okay. But the problem is I can't learn, once I've learned something wrong, I can't unlearn it from a spelling point of view. So my brain does different stuff, right? So lots of people think, oh, dyslexic means you're not very clever or you can't read and write. Lots of really, really like famous entrepreneur type people are dyslexic, right? Like your Richard Bransons of your world, and you know, people who set up. Well, I mean, if you actually look over index, Einstein was dyslexic. Loads of quite interesting people have been dyslexic. So I'm not saying I'm like Einstein or Richard Branson, just to be clear, but it's the same thing. What it means though is that your brain does also do other good stuff, and my brain is able to hold lots of information and data for short periods of time in a kind of a big picture kind of way, which is very helpful when I'm looking at horse data, because I can do a lot of it in my head, and a lot of maths and stuff all goes through my head. So yeah, that sort of stuff is where my brain works well. I can do maths quickly and I can hold data and do that sort of stuff. Well, the downsides for me, which particularly shows up when I'm tired, is I become verbally dyslexic. So I say the wrong thing. So last night I was talking about the Hatton's Grace race, but I kept saying Hatton Gardens, which is a jewellery sector where there was quite a famous robbery. So what I will have a habit of saying that. So if you ever notice me doing it, if it's a heinous thing that I've said that is completely inaccurate, please pull me up on it and say I really don't mind. I think Mark pulled me up as well about I talked about weight conversions, because I looked last night, there was races at Dundalk over a mile and a mile and a half. I gave the figures for the mile. If you want to go Google that stuff, it's generic out there. It's quite easy to find. But the gist of it is there is a sliding scale of if the length distance versus pound differences, and so yeah, you can kind of go, okay, well if that horse is £3 lighter, that means it's X. It's going to make X amount of distance up. It's not a precise science, but there is sort of a generally understood way, a kind of graph of looking at it. Personally, I only really use that stuff sort of if it's flat, 7 furlongs upwards. I don't use it for sprints, and in jumps I don't use that conversion. So I'll look at handicap marks and weights and stuff like that, but I don't use the distance conversion. And yeah, the reason being, in sprints, for instance, I think the margins are so small sometimes. You run the same race 8 times and you'll get different results of it. I think it's less accurate. So I sort of factor in, and that's why things like, I'll say a horse could be like, you know, sometimes I'm talking about a novice jumpy race or whatever, and I'm 3rd to 6th based on what I'm saying. Sometimes I'll have the same sort of view on a flat mile and a half handicap, because actually in a best case scenario of a weight to weight differential ratio type stuff, it will come out like that, and then I'll kind of put a range to it. Hopefully that makes sense without baffling people, but you can go Google it. If people really want, I can someday put up a conversion chart, but it's because I don't religiously stick to it, or I just know what I know what the conversions are, and I factor that in sometimes in decision making. Is all I would say. But yeah, generally speaking, the point we're saying is, yes, I'm really cool if people pull me up on things, because I say inaccurate things all the time. I don't mean to and I don't want to, but often I don't know. And when I watch back the video this morning, I usually listen to the video back through, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that I said that wasn't quite right that people didn't even say. So the gist of the stuff is when I make decisions about the bets, it's fine. It's sometimes when I explain stuff, it comes out wrong, and it absolutely is worse when I am tired. So it's not about me making mistakes. So if I'm having a bad run, it's not because I'm tired and my brain doesn't like doing it. If I feel like I'm too tired to research, I won't research. It's more about my explanations, because my brain works very quickly and it makes decisions, and I've had to train myself to think verbally, how do I explain to somebody something. So one of the helpful things about doing this channel, it keeps me on my toes, because I'm having to think, right, okay, I've made that decision about that horse, why, and I have to by verbalizing it to other people, it actually helps me do a bit of check and balances on myself, because I actually can talk out loud. Because if I didn't, I guess this doing the videos has made me explain to myself more, as well as explaining all to you why I make certain decisions on things. And sometimes there's things where people are like, I don't understand how you've done that, and I might even struggle to explain to you why I've done that. I just know that it's the right thing to do in terms of how my brain's decided the decision, and I trust my brain, because my brain's served me well so far in my life. So there's your little bonus round, but I hope it makes sense. But yeah, if anyone out there is dyslexic, there's lots of people I've met in my life who are dyslexic, and all they know is they're not great at reading and writing, and at school they might have been told they weren't very clever. Those things, you might not be very good at reading and writing, but that has nothing to do with academia or intelligence. And actually, people who have dyslexia over-index on lots of things. You tend to find dyslexic people are particularly creative, they're particularly empathetic. They're not all I happen to be good at numbers, but not all dyslexic people are good at numbers. Everyone's a bit different. But yeah, if you Google famous dyslexic people, the list is quite amazing of who you might come up with, from all sorts of walks of life. But have a look at all of the famous entrepreneurs and business people who are dyslexic. So yeah, if you're sat here watching this video and you're like, well, yeah, I'm dyslexic, I'm not very good at stuff. I think if you start Googling all the good stuff that comes with dyslexia, then start to think about actually what you might be quite good at that you didn't realise you were before. All right, there you go. There's horse racing and neurodiversity coaching for you. All right, we're going to come back tomorrow's Thursday night, and I'll do the tips to league stuff on the Thursday night video. Whether there'll be a ramble, I don't know, because you've had two parts of a ramble on two different subjects this week, so you've had well more than the normal subscription fee would allow. So I'll reserve the right to have no ramble tomorrow on Thursday, and just do the tips and the tips league. It's 24 hours away. I don't know. Who knows what might go off in the world? All sorts of crazy things might go off in the world that I might want to talk about. But yeah. And as for tomorrow as well, worth keeping an eye. Might get final decks. I think it's probably get final 48-hour decks for Fairy House for those two races I talked about yesterday. All right, that's me. Thank you very much. I hope you're having an enjoyable week. Stay warm tomorrow, because it looks like it's pretty cold everywhere. Thank you very much. Bye bye.